Where did our family come from, and how do you know?
Well, I know because we have family histories that are written down, and those recordings are at home. And I've kept up with who your grandparents were, and your great grandparents, and your great great grandparents. And that information has all come down through the generations of the families just by talking to people before they get so old that they don't know anything. Because if you don't get your family history now, when we're gone, there's nobody to tell it to you.
So where are we from?
Well, we've got ancestors from Germany. Two sides are from Germany, two are from Ireland, and on your grandfather's side, they are from Ireland. So a little more Irish than German, but some of both.
How many generations can you trace back from your parents, and if there's any names or birthdays or places of birth?
Names and birthdays? Wow, that goes back a ways. Well, there's me, and then there's Mother, Angel Mama, and she was born in October 14, 1922, and then her parents were born in Wilmington. Her mother was named Irene Fredericks, and that's a German name. Her father was William Raftery, and that is an Irish name, and he was born in New York City. And they were born in the late 1800s, about Mother? Maybe 1885 or something like that,
yeah.
maybe? Something like that,
yeah.
I think.
85 and 89, I think it was.
On the other side, they were all born in the Wilmington area or out in the country. Wilmington was not a very big town, but it was the only town in that section, and people came into Wilmington through the port. That's how a lot of immigrants came into North Carolina. That was one of the first cities that was settled in the state of North Carolina because they came on ships, and so they would come in through the Wilmington port. So a lot of them just stayed there, or they went out, 20, 30 miles out to little small towns. Chinky Pen, Beulahville, Rose Hill, places like that. Okay. Magnolia, and we had relatives living in all those places. And then my grandmother actually moved to town when she was 13 because her father died, and she had to come into town and go to work in a textile mill.
Do we have any veterans in the family?
We do have veterans. I have an uncle that was Angel Mama's brother that served in the Pacific during World War II and was highly decorated with medals, and was a career Army man, but he was promoted on the battlefield, actually. He never went to a military academy. He joined the Army out of high school because they were in the middle of the war, World War II.
Can you tell me any stories about our family?
Let's see, we got a lot of stories. All of them you don't even want to hear about. But some of them that are really interesting was one of my great-great-grandparents was, he owned a grocery store in Wilmington. And during the Civil War, he was my great-great-grandfather. He owned a grocery store at the corner of 5th and Chestnut, or 6th and Chestnut.
5th and Chestnut.
5th and Chestnut. And he was fairly well stocked. People, from around, nobody had cars or anything like that. So, you just supplied your groceries to your neighbors who could walk to the store. And so he was fairly well stocked. Well, during the Civil War, the Union soldiers came in to Wilmington, and they were kind of ransacking places in Wilmington, and when they came into his store, he quickly knew exactly how to respond to get them to leave him alone. What he did was he was sitting on a big barrel, and he folded his legs up under him and had his pants legs folded up like he was an amputee, and said that was all he had was, to take care of his family was this grocery store. And they left him alone and did not burn him down. They were burning down places. And they left him alone. They left him there with all of his inventory, which was a very smart thing for him to do.
Any other stories you have?
Well, let's see. Now you have a great-great-grandfather that owned a carnival. He was born in New York City. His father came to this country from Ireland, and he brought a racehorse with him. And that racehorse was named Maud. And we think, and as well as the people at Biltmore think, that that racehorse was brought in for the Vanderbilt family. And there is a painting of a racehorse named Maud that hangs in Biltmore Estate. He started out, that's how he came to this country. That's how he got over here, was to hop on a steerage on a ship and bring this horse over for someone. And they think the Vanderbilt family came into New York City with that horse. And then her father was actually born in New York City. When he grew up, he became a tailor. And when he got tired of making suits to fit people, he decided he was always so neatly dressed and had on pins and diamond stick pins and flowers in his lapel, and always had a hat on. He was very dapper Dan and well dressed. And he decided that he was a bit of a showman always. Loved to tell stories, had a good sense of humor. And he decided he didn't want to be a tailor anymore, making clothes. So he bought a carnival. And he traveled all up and down the East Coast with this carnival for many, many years, until after I was born. He had a carnival. I didn't get the benefit of that because I was very young. But my sister could go and just go through all the rides and eat everything she wanted anytime he was anywhere close to Wilmington. And people loved to go to the carnival back in that day. So he had all sorts of interesting things that happened. And then my father, your great-grandfather, her husband was a fireman. When he got old enough to join the fire department in Wilmington, he became a fireman. He worked there 47 years, and he became the fire chief for Wilmington. So he spent 47 years as a firefighter. So there are a lot of interesting stories in the family, and if somebody doesn't ask us these things, we don't get a chance to talk about them. So it's nice that you're asking.
And then, do you know of any genealogical records and where they would be? We have any?
I don't know. There are plenty of records, like Talmadge found the property deed down in the depths of the courthouse, recorded on the property, that grocery store that was owned by Peter Bloom in Wilmington during the Civil War, and where that piece of property was sold from the Blooms to another family, the Arl family. And when he was searching for titles, he came across that and brought me a copy of that. So I have at home a copy of this real estate deed when that property was sold. So the only thing I really have that I know are just things that family members have researched and written down. And we have one cousin that has spent probably 15 years collecting information and has a very detailed family tree, which is really interesting.
Cool. Okay. That's it. Thanks.